You'll start there. So 3, 2, and 1. Well, Mary Katie, welcome. Welcome to 2020. Is it 3?
We did
now?
it. We made it.
We're at 2023 now?
We made it,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, just checking because it's been a wild start to the year. I mean, where do we even want to start with this?
I'm going to start with your number one priority. What is that?
My number one priority? My number one priority, of course, is the NFL playoffs because my Jaguars are actually in it.
Wow.
So, although they could be eliminated by the time this airs, we don't know yet.
My fourth grade self is just very excited about that too. Tony Baselli, all of it.
And those were some good days.
The glory days.
Exactly. But we've got a few more problems these days. If only we could go back and tell our junior high selves to stay here for a while. And for you, obviously that's been the water situation was one of them. We're coming up on a year of this now, but we do have good news to report to the people. So tell us just exactly what that is.
Such good news. So we turned on our new plant starting last month, December 20th. Turned it on. All the water should be through all 200 miles of pipes. So the water flowing into people's homes now is non-detect levels of PFAS, which is really exciting. And that's our temporary solution. Really excited. But we're working on our permanent solution next, which is our granular activated system. And that's, we don't have a cost yet, but the estimates are probably somewhere between $15 and $20 million, which is a lot. But we are so grateful that we are getting federally directed congressional spending. I don't know, they call it something, it's an earmark. We have an earmark in the federal budget that was passed and signed by the president for $1.6 million to go towards that solution, which is really great. For us, it's good for the city, it's good for the ratepayers, and we're still on the hunt for more. Obviously, I've been banging on the door of the governor's office and a variety of folks putting together that state budget too. I hope we have some good news at some point, but that will be down the line as well.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously that's something that you had the opportunity to talk to the governor about last week. He was here for a budget listening session, and clean water between the governor, Katrina Shankland, has been a champion for it as well in the state. That's something that is on their priority list. But, late last year, we also did get the shock that the rate increase is going to be, a lot more than what we were anticipating. Obviously, that's preliminary right now. It's been turned over to the state.
Yep.
Let us know kind of where we're at in that process right now.
So first I'm going to start with where we started. So 2019-ish, they started talking about the new drinking water facility and how to pay for it. And so obviously the rates cover that. That's what it's intended to do. And when the initial rate case went through, there was a request for 45% increase for the water side. And the PSC looked at it, they looked at the plans, and they said, all right, we understand you're building a new plant and that you need to pay for it. However, we're not going to allow you to raise your rates to cover the whole cost until you have that asset built and live. So come back to us later. And so that's what we did. We worked with our financial advisors to put together the rate case, taking into consideration the funding that we need to cover, the construction costs and the debt coverage for there, but also understanding our new challenges in the way of maybe inflation when it comes to chemicals and things like that, but also the granular activated carbon system. So that's all in the rate case. So instead of a 45% increase that was initially noticed, I think 2019, it's now 65% increase, which is obviously suboptimal, just like looking at that bare numbers. But, I spent a lot of time asking questions to our financial advisor and our team here. And, ultimately they said, we spent the money and we need to pay for that debt. The financially, responsible thing to do is to pay for the money you borrowed, which obviously,
of course,
but it doesn't stop it from being shocking. I'm optimistic that we can continue having people sign up for programming through the state to help augment the money that they need to spend on their rates. So if people are interested, you can go to our website and we have information on how to sign up for that project or for that program through the state to help pay for your water bills. But, $18 a month-ish for your average family usage. It's, obviously an increase, but we hope that it's worth it in the long run as we continue to face more regulation and just ensuring that we are providing the best product we can.
And of course, those programs were something that you discussed at length during the December meeting. Let us know what those are. And I know there was also discussion about a lower rate tier for, I guess, someone like me, who's a single guy living in his house with his cat, who doesn't have the laundry going constantly, who doesn't have 4 or 5 people taking showers in his house. Where are we at with those options right now?
So we years ago agreed to be a part of the state program. That's probably the most used program. I wish I had the name on the tip of my tongue. I don't. But again, that's on our website. There's 2 other programs there's one for homeowners and one for renters. So those are options. They're all listed. But we also talked about working with the PSC to establish rates for people who are maybe income constrained. So that's something that we have to go through the process again through the PSC, and we didn't have the time to add that into the application that we did initially, but that is on our list of the next time we go through, let's talk about this.
So then my next question is, you mentioned paying off the debt for this facility. Obviously, you took out the money under the previous Milky administration. That money's been spent. The building is up. It's now flowing.
Yeah.
So once that debt is paid off, whatever the terms are of it, of course, we don't have the sheets in front of us right now.
I wish we did, right?
Is there a chance then that the city can come back and say, let's relook at this now that it's paid off, and maybe we can adjust downward?
Yeah, I don't want to give people, like unnecessary, like optimism to look at that, because when I'm asking those questions, it seems obvious, right? Like, oh, if we pay it off earlier, we don't pay as much, right? We don't have as much interest. Or maybe we don't need to use as much. Maybe we're a lot more, we're able to get the work done for less. I don't know if that's going to be the case yet. We will need to look at how it runs. And one of the challenges, obviously, is, we are dealing with the inflation issues too. So, our chemicals have gone up 30%. We're anticipating some more regulations coming from the EPA that will be, parts per quadrillion versus parts per trillion. So right now we're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really, we're to the point where no test will be able to show that there's PFAS in our water. So we'll continue looking at that. We'll continue looking at the regulations. But there's other regulations that are coming down the pike that, now I'm like, what is next? And surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, there's a lot of stuff that's on the agenda to make sure that we're taking care of our people. So maybe, but also probably not. One of the things that this does is it will get us, like, we might be pretty expensive for a little bit, but as we're seeing the rest of the community start testing and reporting and needing to fix their issues, we're probably going to fall down the list of costs when it comes to drinking water. So that's just kind of the whole cycle of this. I've been asking a lot of municipalities how and why, and they said it's just where you hit in this cycle. It's just, so I don't love it. Right. I wish it was certain that we're here to stay, but
Yeah, indeed, a lot of unknowns at this point.
Yeah.
So another thing that has certainly taken up a lot of your time, and actually there was a lot of discussion about it last week at City Council. I think I had it timed out at about an hour and 15 minutes or so. The city's homelessness unhoused issue. Obviously, you're going to come to a committee of the whole meeting to discuss where the city's at and what different groups in the city are doing right now, and maybe even what more can be done. Correct?
Yeah, so we will have a committee of the whole. We don't have a date yet. One of the things I want to make sure of is that when we do have that committee of the whole, we have as much information as the council needs in order to start having a productive conversation. It was clear during the council meeting that some people were getting information from some places, others from other places. Maybe there's a little bit of mistrust between us, the council, various programs that are working to alleviate unhoused issues. So I think we need to come together and decide, like, what information do we need? What questions need to be answered? How can we make sure you're armed with the best information to have a productive conversation? There's a lot of conversation about the county. And so I had a couple of conversations with the county administrator. And he's like, listen, I will do what you need if you need information, whatever you need, but let's make sure that we have this hashed out so that I'm giving you exactly the information that's helpful and you understand the county's role in this. So, there are different kinds of nuances in these conversations, right? We want to find somebody to blame. We want to make sure that, we're the heroes of our stories, but it's really important that we have productive conversation. And I think as you saw from some of the alders commenting, they are tired of the kind of finger pointing, and they just want to get down to the business of solving problems. So I think we might be in a perfect place to have this conversation. I would expect in a month or so to have a date or even the meeting lined up.
Yeah, and one of the other things that was discussed, though, was we should probably be careful just how deeply we do get into this, because there are groups that are out there doing the work, and maybe they can do their work better when they're not tied down to something bureaucratic. So we need to find out, how deep do we need to be, or do we need to just kind of maybe prop them up a little bit or support their cause?
Right. So there are some monetary challenges for groups, right? And we've been trying to address some of that. I mean, we directed, $1.25 million in state funding to CPC to shore up that campus, to make sure it was built the way it should be. We directed some of our CDA funding to help them acquire the building. We are directing, $700,000 for day and night services through Catholic Charities, because we know they do the work. So we are investing monetarily as a city, but there might also be opportunities for us to say, okay, what challenges are you facing and how can we be helpful? And it might be non-monetary, right? We've had conversations about, there's kind of a disconnect between, every single caseworker who works with somebody and is trying to help them. How do we make sure that everyone's aligned? How do we do this? And there's a program or a way to solve this through case conferencing, which is something I'm learning about. I didn't know about it, but these organizations do. So they're working on ways to, how do we kind of meld our documents so that we're treating everybody consistently, and also we know their stories and we're able to get them the help they need. So that stuff is happening. We can facilitate. If there are opportunities for us to serve as a platform for discussion, obviously we're doing that. And also taking the temperature of our population. We hear a lot from people who are extremely passionate, and I'm also hearing from people who don't want to, come to public comment. They maybe don't even want to send an email. They don't want their name attached to their comments because they feel like they will be told they're bad people, because they want to hold up or pump the brakes, or they're worried about their business, or they're worried about the parking ramps, or they feel intimidated. So, there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen, and everyone deserves to have their voice heard, and we should listen.
Yeah, and a part of that discussion is possibly creating a department within the city. Obviously, that's an idea right now, but is that something that down the road you could see happening here at City Hall?
Yeah, I think I think it's good that people are starting to think about what could a solution look like. I think probably what's more helpful is that what are the challenges? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And then coming up with a solution for the problem we're trying to solve, right? Like, make sure we understand that fully. Is it a city department? I don't know. Like, what are we doing that's not helpful as a community? What is the expectation of, the county when it comes to their human services or North Central Healthcare? What have we done in the past? We heard about how the city used to have a health department. Well, that was canceled in the 70s. And then in the 90s, the state said, hey, if you had a city health department and you merged with the county, you're not going to be able to come back and start your own health department now from here on out. So, we're kind of stuck in this process, with what we have. So, thinking through, what does the state statutes have to say about this? What can we do legally? But, this is different. I'm willing to have the discussion, and I want to hear, but I think we need to flesh out what question are we trying to answer? What problems are we trying to solve? And then kind of formulate the solutions around that, instead of solution, how do we make all of this fit into this one solution?
Yeah, instead of hiring somebody and then all of a sudden saying, here you go fix it, right?
Right, yeah. And and maybe the expectation when we first hired our very first outreach specialist to kind of work on this problem, she started in September, and maybe everyone thought that she had a magic wand and was coming in and was able to solve everything immediately. And she's been working her tail off. But obviously these are complex issues, and it takes time, and she's doing great. So I don't want anyone to think that she's not succeeding, but we do need more resources to help her.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And again, that's 2 items right there. That's 14 minutes.
Do we have something fun to talk about?
At this point, I guess, do we just say, hey, it's snowing, let's go outside and play in the snow, right?
Oh man, love it. Love it.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, that's two issues right there that are certainly going to keep you busy for the rest of the year. I mean, how do you find elsewhere to run the city?
You know, we have great team surrounding me and doing their work. So I do rely heavily on the work and the data and all of that and the ideas from people. So we have maybe only 24 hours in a day, and we need to sleep and eat and take care of ourselves. That's my self-talk right now. I got to do it. Thank you for rescheduling this. I had zero voice last week.
Right.
But we just got to keep at it, and these issues will bubble to the surface, and we can plan for some of them. But others, we're going to have to continue working while people are alarmed about them or noticing this stuff. So it's a lot, but that's why we're here.
Indeed. Well, Mayor Katie, we always appreciate the time. Again, glad you've gotten over the laryngitis.
Yes.
For the most part anyway, and we'll look forward to chatting again next month.
Thank you.